Ken Nelson with the Tactical Performance Center. Let's learn how to load and unload a gun safely. Got a Glock 43 here, it's my carry gun. And one of the things that I see students do a lot when they come to class is load a gun in a way that waves it all over the place. And so what I'm going to do is show you how to load and unload a gun in a way that you could do it at your house and never ever point the gun in a bad direction. Two key things. The first is you have to identify a safe direction to point the gun while you're loading it. At my house, there are 4 or 5 locations that I can do that. And if the round goes off, I'll be unhappy, but it will not go anywhere or hurt anybody, including bouncing back to me. I've gone through and identified places in my home where I can do that. I encourage you to do the same. Unless you live on a country estate by yourself with a 1.5 mile radius around you, please do that. The second thing is they don't have a stiff wrist when they manipulate the gun. They have a floppy wrist. Stiffen your wrist so that you can control the gun with the elbow and that you'll know where it's pointing based on where your finger is. So the first part of this technique is the stiff wrist. The second is we're always going to manipulate the gun with our finger gently pressed on the frame. Not off, but on the frame. Now I've identified a safe direction as this target. What I'm going to do is keep the gun at that target through all the steps. Got my mag, going to rotate it. It's still pointing at the target. Insert once. Learn to do that. None of this tap, tap, tap stuff. Hit it hard, push it hard enough to get it seated. I have all the time in the world. I'll give it a tug. Make sure it's good. Right now I'm going to rotate it. It's still pointed at the target or at the safe direction. Another thing I see students do is they ride the slide back. Just pull it all the way back, let it go. It's designed to operate at high speeds. Now, I'd like to make sure that a bullet made it into the chamber. Now this gun does have a chamber loaded indicator, and I will feel that so that I know how to do it in low light conditions. But I'm also going to pull the gun in where I can look down. I pull it in so I can look down and not have to pull the slide very far, and I'll press check. I see brass. Gun is loaded. Okay, now I've got a loaded gun and I have to holster it, and that still applies. If I'm, for instance, on the 3rd floor of a hotel right now, below me could be an innocent person who does not want to wake up shot. Okay? So always know the safe direction, including where you're loading and when you're holstering. Now in this case, I brought an example holster, one that I cannot holster safely with it inserted in the belt. It's a good holster, the sticky holster. I like it, especially for pocket carry, but I'm not going to holster with it embedded in my waistband. So instead what I'm going to do is very carefully load it or insert the gun in so that the gun stays in the safe direction. Now that the trigger is controlled, I have a little more leeway in terms of where I point this. I can insert it. Loaded, ready to go about my day. All right, now let's do the unloading. Now, point it at the safe direction, just reverse it. I'm going to take the magazine out, stow it, still pointing in the safe direction. Now I have to get rid of the bullet. I have 2 ways I'll recommend. The first is just rack it out, let it go to the ground. Don't try to catch it. I don't have confidence that you can catch it and keep this muzzle pointed at your safe direction. Instead, what I'll typically do is just flip it over for this model gun, flip it over so that the bullet is going to come out, have nothing but air to fall into, and it'll fall in my hand. There's the bullet, stow it. Now I've got what I believe is an empty gun. I've got no magazine. I've got nothing in the chamber. I'm going to go click and put it and dry fire it and make sure that that click happens. Now I'm going to put it back in the holster, but remember the first rule is treat all guns as if they're loaded. So I'm not going to just stick it in here. I'm going to pull this holster out and treat it like it's loaded. Now I'm good to go. So I encourage you to find your safe directions for loading and unloading in your home, to never ever point a gun at yourself or at an innocent neighbor a mile away. Be a responsible gun owner. Don't make assumptions. Follow the rules. They're there to protect you and others. I'm Ken Nelson. I hope this tip helps. I'll see you on the range.